I'd like to preface this story by acknowledging that the truthfulness or reliability of asylum or escaped mental patient stories tends to be questionable. The reason why I'm skeptical of those stories is that large-scale closures of asylums began in 1967 through the 1980s and were completely decommissioned by 2015. So I raise my eyebrow whenever someone talks about spooky asylum stories that happened within the last 2 decades or so. Still, I will be sharing my story as factually as my memory allows and refrain from exaggerating any aspect because, unfortunately, this story is true through and through. During summers with my parents, I often visited my grandparents' home in Traverse City, a beautiful place in northern Michigan known for producing 75% of the world's cherries. The city was also home to the Traverse City Regional Psychiatric Hospital, which operated from 1885 to 1989. Designated for preservation by the United States federal government for its historical significance, the hospital grounds were guarded by patrolling security guards. The TC Psychiatric Hospital was massive, with 70 or 80 buildings of various sizes. While some buildings have been converted into restaurants, gift shops, tourism traps and cafes, many remained empty and abandoned. Beneath the hospital lay a sprawling brick tunnel system used by hospital staff to safely transport patients between buildings during the frigid winter temperatures. Although the hospital likely witnessed instances of cruel treatment and the care of horrible doctors, it had a great reputation. As a teenager, I was unashamedly fascinated with the hospital and its history. Along with other teenagers, including my friend Jason, I would often break into abandoned buildings through unbarred windows or doors with pickable padlocks. Though some got caught and charged with breaking and entering, we managed to be stealthy, sticking to safe entrances and paying attention to the guards' patrol patterns. I don't advocate or justify this criminal act, but breaking into the old hospital was almost a rite of passage for USTC teens. The hospital's interior was terrifying, with old, stained and broken equipment and furniture, crumbling floors and walls, vandalism, strange noises, and complete darkness in the tunnels, basements and lower floors. Flashlights were too risky with patrolling guards, so we navigated by memory and dimly lit phone screens. Our frightened, youthful imaginations ran wild with horror stories. Ironically, though, we made most of them up. I'm sorry to disappoint, but I never encountered anything supernatural in all my trips to the abandoned TC Psych Hospital. Unfortunately, during my last trip inside, I encountered something all too human that terrified me to the point I swore off ever returning. It was around 10 p.m. when Jason and I entered through the same window we always used, following our regular path to sit by the windows overlooking the city. This time, there was a new, faint and unexplainable smoky odor. Not smoky like fire, but more akin to incense. The smell grew stronger as we approached our destination. Ignoring the urge to leave, we investigated further and reached a room with a deep red glow emanating from the doorway. In the room, I gasped audibly, and Jason gripped my wrist so hard his nails left marks. There, we found a large ring of red votive candles and burning incense surrounding a drawing of a pentagram with the sigil of Baphomet. In the center of the drawing lay a dead, bloodied bird surrounded by black feathers. Being raised devoutly Catholic, this sight filled me with a fear stronger and more paralyzing than any ghost sighting ever could. Later that night, Jason told me I had immediately started mumbling prayers, but I don't remember doing so. I wouldn't be surprised, though. As we stood there, unsure of how long, we heard a man's low and ominous voice behind us saying, "Welcome, friends." There was absolutely nothing friendly about the way he greeted us. Jason and I screamed and turned around, seeing 2 nicely dressed but frazzled-looking adult men smiling at us. The man in front of me held something in his hand, and while I can't say for sure what it was, I thought it was a knife at the time, considering the recent bird sacrifice. Jason and I sprinted past the men, and I felt someone's fingers grab the back of my shirt. I managed to escape their grip by ducking. The men shouted for us to stop running, but we didn't listen. We heard their footsteps chasing us for a while, But being familiar with the hospital, running through unlit rooms, hallways and tunnels was no challenge. When we finally reached and vaulted through our escape window, the occultists were nowhere to be seen or heard. We kept running through the hospital grounds until we reached Jason's car, not caring about the patrol guards. We would rather have been caught by the guards than the occultists. In the parking lot, I puked twice from fear, sprinting non-stop for 1.5 miles, or a combination of both. I'm not sure what would have happened if the occultists caught us, but I know they weren't there to crack open a beer and sing Kumbaya by the candlelight. I'm not familiar with cultic practices or satanic rituals, so I'm unsure of what the men were trying to do or if they were summoning something. If anyone reading this post is more knowledgeable on the topic, please share your thoughts. Jason and I never returned to the hospital that summer or any following summers. While we aren't close now that we're adults, I know that horrifying experience will keep us cemented in each other's memories until we die. This is a throwaway account as I want to keep this a secret from my partner. It all happened around 6.5 years ago, so some parts may be altered as I can't vividly remember the incident, even though I should. This was one of the scariest incidents in my life until now. It all started when one morning I decided to open my front door to go and buy groceries I had forgotten to purchase from the local market that started around 8:30 a.m. every day, even on weekdays. Instead, I found the strangest thing waiting for me outside. Lying at the center of my doorstep was a small USB flash drive. It was so small that I nearly stepped on it. At first I was confused and took a second to look around if anyone was pranking me. You know how those teens are these days, I thought. But when the outside of my house was dead silent, questions began to flood my head. Who put that there was the obvious first thought. It was just a generic USB stick, no label or anything. I thought no one would waste their time walking up to my house to place it on my doorstep, but that's exactly what had happened. There was no way to know where it came from, who dropped it, or if it was left there intentionally for someone curious enough to plug it in. Well, I did what anyone else would do. I took it inside and thought it'd be smart to plug it into my computer. The device was full of pictures, dozens of them filling every tiny space the USB drive could hold. I clicked through them in order, and at first they were just shots from around town, general places that I recognized and pass through sometimes when I'm taking my morning stroll around the park. The fourth image was taken on our town's busiest street. In the image, the street was full of people, but there was somebody in it that caught my attention immediately. Me. The image showed me among the crowd, just minding my own business, buying groceries for my barbecue a day ago. At first I thought, this was a small town. Was it just a coincidence that I was in the picture? The fifth image was taken on the same day, and I was in it again. The photographer was closer to me this time, a little too close for comfort. Whoever had taken these pictures of me, I hadn't noticed them at that time. Next came several more pictures of me in various locations around town. Then something more chilling, a photo of a house. My house. It was nighttime in that image, and the living room light was on. I clicked through the next image. It was another image of my house, this time taken even closer. Through the living room window, you could see me sitting on the couch on my phone. I could tell from the clothes I was wearing that it had been taken the night before, right after I'd taken a shower. I had no idea somebody had been outside watching me. I kept clicking through the images on the drive, photo after photo of me inside my house, taken from just outside my window. It was so light inside and so dark outside that I was totally unable to see that somebody was watching me from out there. I couldn't see them, but they could see me clear as day. They didn't even need to use the camera light. After 20 or so pictures of me just inside my house, there came a real curveball, an image taken from inside my hallway. The person taking these pictures of me had been inside my house the night before. There were photos of my living room, now lightless and empty, obviously taken after I'd gone to sleep. Photos of my kitchen, my dining area, my stairwell. and several taken as the unknown figure ascended my stairs towards where I was sleeping. My brain started to run wild with thoughts about who had been following me. Had I wronged someone in the past, said something wrong to the wrong person? Was this just some weirdo who decided to target me? Were they armed when they came to pay me a visit? Whatever the case, somebody had come inside my house at night and taken pictures of all my rooms, including my bedroom. The second to last picture was of me, fast asleep in bed, totally oblivious to the person in my home. The final image was just a handwritten note framed in close-up. The message simply read, "Never hide a spare key under your doormat." I have since moved to a new house.